It is kind of old news, guys, but the whole submarine Titan thing that went
Yes.
down, pun not intended.
Yeah.
What a crazy story that turned out to be, huh?
I mean, it was one of those things, Jared. You said you followed it closely. My wife and I got kind of wrapped up into it. I
Yeah,
don't
me
know how
too.
closely you looked into it, Ted, but it's one of those things that, like, I don't know what it is. If it's because it had to do with the Titanic and so many people are kind of obsessed or very interested in the Titanic, but
Hmm.
it's just something that like captured the country, the nation, the world, for the last week or whatever. And you were talking about conspiracies with the roads in Michigan. I heard people saying like this is all just a big distraction by the government and by the news
Right.
media because of everything else that's going on. Let's distract everyone with this Titan submersible thing going down to see the Titanic. And I just always laugh when people say that. Like, I'm just not a big conspiracy theory guy, but so I just laugh. But it was crazy because when you start digging into it and you see the CEO of Ocean Gate and just how uh, shady everything was, not listening to all the warning signs. It wasn't approved by any official, like administration or anything like that to dive. Every time they did dive, they always had issues. They
Right.
fired the dude who said like this thing should not be going down to the Titanic. It's being run by a Logitech video game controller. I don't know. Everything about it just seemed like very crazy and bizarre. And I would like to think that if I had the money to do that, the minute I sat in there and looked around and then they started bolting it from the outside saying, we have no way to get out, I'd be like, no, sorry.
It
This
it
sounds really cool to go down to the Titanic, but nope.
Mm-mm.
it it captured me for a solid 2 days there in the heart
Yeah.
of it. It was all I consumed, man. TikTok, Twitter, everywhere was about this Titan submersible. Um, Obviously, like you said, the gaming controller. A lot of people stuck to that. What in God's green earth possessed these people to drop $250,000 to get in this submarine that you get bolted into? Literally looks like it was slapped together right before you got there, controlled by a video game controller. But don't worry, they have a couple extras in case somebody
Right.
gets angry and whips it at the wall as if they were playing Call of Duty. The whole thing, it was, I don't know what it was about it. I couldn't take my eyes off of the story. It definitely, one, it's sad that some people lost their lives because of
Right.
this. Um, we don't need to go that route on this story. Nobody really is. But I will say, in all the ways for them to go out, just be thankful that it was the implosion,
Yeah.
where it was basically, it sounds like it's kind of like the perfect way to go out, really. The amount of time it takes for that thing to implode, you don't even have time to register pain in your body. It's milliseconds.
Right.
So be thankful that they went out that way. I will say, for the story, what made it so intriguing, at least to me, was the idea that they were still down there
Yeah.
and they were stuck. And essentially, that there was, even if we could locate them, there was no way to bring them up.
Right.
There's only 3 submarines that can even go that deep. And if you tried to just pull it up, basically it would implode like it did.
Hmm.
Just a wild story. I've never understood the infatuation with the Titanic. When you look at this sub, essentially how it was built was there's the bathroom at the front of it with a little peephole window you look out. When you have to go to the bathroom, you pull the curtain back, turn the radio up, and unload in the toilet, which is wild to me. Apparently, this is like a whole 8-hour journey, 4 hours down, or like 10 hours, I believe, 4 hours down, 2 hours of like looking around at the wreck, and then 4 hours back up. I mean, why? Just why? What
Yeah.
is it with the Titanic? Ted, it seems to be your generation that's really, you guys love the Edmund Fitzgerald and you love the Titanic. What
Yeah.
is so cool about it?
Well, Titanic, I mean, that's kind of worldwide fascination when you think
Right.
about it. It's not just my generation, but it's just the fact that it was supposed to be the unsinkable, boat, and the worst thing that ever
Wasn't
could
even
happen
close.
happened. And I think it died down a little bit until James Cameron made the movie. And I mean, that's one of the greatest movies, I think,
Yeah.
blockbuster wise, of all time. It was classic. And but I don't know. I would never for 1 second venture into any kind of submarine to go down and and explore the Titanic. I mean, that's where I draw the line a little bit. You know, the videos of it, okay, it's kind of interesting, but you know, there's some out there that would say, hey man, you know, that's really a cemetery. Let it go.
Right.
Right.
Well, and right, not just everything that goes into how the risks of it, you know, the depth and how remote the location is in the ocean, but yeah, just the, you know, the vibes and everything,
Mhm.
like everything about what happened there would make me think like this isn't a good idea to dive down here. Something bad is going to happen. We're going to get stuck in the Titanic, or we're going to implode here, you know, whatever. So it's just all bizarre. It's to me, it's, you know, thrill seekers, but I think it's people with too much money they don't know what to do with. You know, if you got 250 grand laying around to throw and look at that thing to go down to the Titanic. And you mentioned James Cameron, the director of that movie. He's been down to the Titanic himself
33
Honest,
times.
yeah,
Yeah, he's like
what-
an expert. He's like one of the real experts of the Titanic, right?
right. And when you look at, I've seen pictures of the ship, or you know, basically the sub that he's taken
Yeah.
compared to this one. It's like, oh, why would you even think that this Ocean Gate one was safe enough to go? Because James Cameron's was like, okay, this is legit. This looks like the Navy, or you know,
Right,
something
right.
like that, not something thrown together with connects blocks and, you know, camping world materials. But
Right.
you know, yes, Jared, you said it. It is sad because, you know, people lost their lives, but it's just a crazy story that captured everyone for what, 4 or 5 days, and now everyone's moved on.
Yeah, it just, I mean, it from, you know, and what's crazy is, like you said, it's like the conspiracy of it that basically the U.S. Navy heard it explode like almost moments after they lost connection.
2 hours or something.
2
after-
hours.
Yeah.
So that's terrifying. I didn't know it was 2 hours. So basically, you can surmise that they were sitting down there unmoved for 2 hours, probably. Dear God, this sounds like hell.
Yeah.
But it is weird how the news media will just, I mean, they knew they had us hook, line, and sinker on this story. The oxygen updates, 48 hours till they're on oxygen, even though it meant nothing. They were dead no matter what. Even if they had oxygen, there was no getting them. So it just, the whole thing, you felt a little bit bamboozled by the end of it, and it kind of took a little bit of the air out of the story, in my opinion. But man, for those 2 days, the internet never disappoints with these interesting stories that you can capture your imagination, man. I mean, they're already coming out with documentaries for this.
Oh, there's going to be a Netflix show for sure.
And that's what the bummer, not bummer is not the right word, but you know, there would have been a movie that's like just like 127 hours with James Franco, except it's like whatever, 96 hours, and it's just these four or five guys just sitting down at the bottom of the ocean floor, you know, just waiting for their demise.
They make it out.
But that's not what happened. So who knows? They still might do that, but
I did see
the worst
there's
way to go
video
out, though, is being stuck down at the bottom of the ocean. What's worse, the ocean or space? I think ocean, because at least you're not getting rescued. They're flat out, they can't get you if you get. And they knew that. And before they went down, if you break down or whatever, lose connection, lose your GPS, you are dead. At least in outer space, you have some semblance of a hope. Hey, maybe somehow they can get me. Probably not, but
maybe
better than zero, which is what the ocean is. They physically can't get you.
Both pretty creepy. If you were just floating away in outer space, that'd be pretty lonely feeling to just saying bye to Earth as it's getting smaller and smaller away.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's both. It would be pretty creepy, and I'm not claustrophobic, but I feel like if you were stuck in that thing, knowing that you weren't getting back up and you're running out of oxygen, that's where it started to get crazy, because people started coming up with these stories of like, can you imagine what they're doing right now? Like, are they deciding who to kill off so they can save some oxygen, or like, what are they doing with the toilet? And like, you know, all these other stories start going, and you start thinking, what would I do if I was in that situation? And it is kind of crazy. I'm not as much as I used to be. I definitely am still like a thrill seeker. I like roller coasters and skiing and, you know, doing all this stuff. And, you know, I like that kind of stuff. There's something about the ocean though that I wouldn't be scared to go scuba, or, you know, like go out on a cruise, or, you know, something like that. But the ocean is like, man, I don't want to mess with it. I feel like, I mean, even when we go to the beaches and go to the ocean and, we'll go out and swim and stuff, there's still a side to me that I'm always like,
Yeah,
Checking out for sharks.
I'm always just like, look,
No, I
you
hate it.
swim in Lake Michigan and you're just like, whatever, maybe some seaweed is going to rub up on me. But in the ocean, it's literally like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
The
I have
water
no
is
idea.
terrifying. Like even when you go, like if you go tubing and you get, knocked off your tube and you're just like sitting there treading water, and even in like Lake Manitou, it's kind of freaky. Like you can't see below you. You don't know what's going on.
It's a weird feeling.
I
Yeah.
would be terrified to even just jump out in the ocean, 50 feet from shore. Like maybe not 50 feet from shore, but like, whatever, way out, even like when it's like 15, 20 feet deep. I don't want to be out there. I can't imagine deciding I'm going to go on a Titanic sub all the way down. The real kind of the extra little juice this story had was the loose cannon stepson of this billionaire
At the Blink 182 concert.
Blink 182 concert. He's messaging OnlyFans models, sliding into their DMs, making himself known. I mean, he was celebrating because he knew he's becoming a very rich guy right about now. Probably a billionaire, to be honest. So that was just another little wrinkle to that story that kind of just made it that much more. What the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
Pretty
Well, we may
bizarre.
be talking about it a little late, but it was quite a story for a few days, wasn't it? Big time. One of those news cycle things.
So we were throwing around at work. I'm sure you guys, but we were like, why did they have like a really long cable tied to it with like a balloon at the top? Like kind of joking, but seems like the safety measures weren't really very well thought out. But
no, they had one way of communicating, that was texting or something.
Right.
Also,
yeah,
my goodness, it was just
all
botched.
very strange.